Is this mic on? I guess. Anyway, we missed this time. We missed this time. And the state legislative bodies continue to change the law, not as to who can vote, who gets to count the vote. Count the vote. Who counts the vote? Count the vote. Count the vote. Come on, man. Count the vote. Count the vote. You know the thing. Count the vote. Count. I'm tired of being quiet. It's not hyperbole. This is a fact. It's no longer about who gets to vote. It's about making it harder to vote. It's about who gets to count the vote. I said America's back. Simple as that. The facts won't matter. Your vote won't matter. The defeated former president used the big lie about the 2020 election to fuel torrent. He didn't say count the votes. He said find votes. Look, this matters to all of us. I'm tired of being quiet. Count the vote. Count the vote. Who counts the vote? Count the vote. Count the vote. Come on, man. Count the vote. Count the vote. You know the thing. Count the vote. Count. I'm tired of being quiet. I'm so damn old I was there. History has never been kind to those who've sided with voter suppression and election subversion. But folks, hear me plainly. Their end game is about making it harder to vote. It's about who gets to count the vote. What in the hell are we talking about? I mean, think about it. That's not America. Think about that. That's what it looks like when they suppress the right to vote. Stand for democracy. Yes or no? I'm tired of being quiet. Count the vote. Count the vote. Who counts the vote? Count the vote. Count the vote. Come on, man. Count the vote. Count the vote. You know the thing. Count the vote. Count. I'm tired of being quiet.
And Spike Cohen.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the Vanguard. For Spike, Return of the Jedi Cohen, I am Matt Wright, and together we are traversing the muddied waters of freedom.
I don't even remember what I'm supposed to say. Like, I'm just like, hey, everybody. Hey.
If you're watching on YouTube, please.
Yes. Oh, that's it. Hey. Thanks for watching this Muddy Waters media production. Check us out everywhere. Wherever you're watching us, continue checking us out there or listening to us. Man, it's going to be rough. If you are, check us out everywhere. We're on all. I'm just gonna keep telling you to check us out. We are on all social media platforms for the most part. We are on all. Well, we're not on Getter anymore. And we're on all podcasting platforms. And be sure to like and subscribe and follow. And like, if you're on Facebook, comment and then like other people's comments. Then reply to their comments. Tell them to like your comment. And then share the whole thing. And be sure to share this right now. Give the gift of the Muddy Waters today. Kids love it. Also, if you are doing this on YouTube, I want you to hit the bell. I don't just want you to hit subscribe. I want you to hit the bell right next to it, because then your phone will explode with notifications. Let me make sure my phone is on silent. Yes, phone notifications every time we go live. Make sure to do that. Thank you so much. So glad to be back.
First and foremost, allow me to thank the wonderful, talented, and absolutely gorgeous Justin Thoreau. I don't remember what I used to call him. Justin, for the kava I'm drinking today.
And I'd like to thank my wife for making me this delicious hot drink of. Just realizing we're in this stupid mug. It says I don't need Google. My husband knows everything, which I'm not. I don't have a husband, but my wife made me this drink, which has ginger and honey and lemon and turmeric in it, and it tastes like that. So thank you for that, Buluvanaka.
Buluvanaka.
It helps with my throat.
Did your wife make you mud water for?
No, she made me. This tastes better than mud water, and it's good for my throat. It helps with my throat.
Good. So to everybody, to all of the mud skippers out there,
we should have spent this last month figuring out what to call them.
Yeah, we should have done that, but we didn't. To everybody who is a fan of the show and has missed getting regular updates from us, we apologize. Spike came to my house on New Year's Day, and I tried to kill him twice.
Yes.
I gave him gluten.
Yes.
We tried to feed him eggs. And then somebody in my household gave him COVID.
Or we gave everyone in the household COVID.
Or
that part
you
is,
gave it.
Yeah, it's
that part. It's
a little murky.
Part, you could say that's the muddied waters. We don't know who.
The
that's
muddied
the muddied
COVID.
Waters of COVID.
The muddied waters of COVID is someone brought COVID to the right household, and
all that can be said for certain is that Jason Lyon is the reason that Betty White is dead.
Yes, we would like to apologize for Jason Lyon killing Betty White as well, which long term probably has the greater impact than my getting COVID. But so yeah, we all got COVID, and I got it. Like, I got this super strain of COVID, or just COVID doesn't like me, or whatever. It hit me pretty hard. So, which is why I still sound like this.
Yeah, it hung with me for a while.
Yeah, you got it pretty bad too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, anybody else? I mean, the other people that were at my house got it. Like, everybody got it that was here.
Yes.
And one of them, he didn't seem like he was in and out 3 days, done, fine. And then everybody else seemed to get like just beaten with it. Yeah.
Tasha didn't get it too bad. Hers was about a week. Took her about a week before she was back to normal. But holy crap. There's been a lot of debate over the last 2 years about COVID, and a lot of really strongly held opinions. I frankly don't like it. So
I honestly not.
I am anti-COVID.
I am definitely anti-COVID. But as we're going to get into later, I am also anti-lockdown.
Yes. So this episode is brought to you by COVID. No, this episode is brought to you. We actually used to have a COVID graphic we could have used, but this episode is brought to you by a lack of COVID, thankfully. This episode, of course, is brought to you by the Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus, the fastest growing and second largest caucus in the Libertarian Party. If you'd like to become a member, go to the exclusive Facebook group, Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus today. And if you'd like to buy some sweet-ass Waffle House Caucus apparel, go to the store, muddywatersmedia.com, and then click on the store button. And you can get all sorts of really cool store stuff from the store, Muddy Waters Media branded stuff, including Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus branded shirts and buttons. The Gravy King. Joe Solosky is running for Pennsylvania governor. Joe Solosky is the key to Pennsylvania's success. In fact, Joe would say that liberty is the key to Pennsylvania's success. And if you'd like to help Joe become the first libertarian governor ever, then go to joesolosky.com. That's JoeSoloski.com. Jack Casey. Man, that's a name I haven't said in an eon. Last year, actually. Jack Casey has written 3 books. What are they about? I don't know. Had I had an opportunity
what
to
I'm
read
pretty
them,
certain is whatever world it takes place on is flat.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Breaking news. These are flat Earth tomes. Is it flat Earth or is it inverted Earth?
I mean, are we talking about Jack's favorite sexual position or the actual?
Wow. So these books, we won't read them because if they're good, we'll feel bad about making fun of them every week. And if they're bad, then we feel bad about trying to get you to buy them. So we're in this really weird place in our lives where we're just going to refuse to ever read them. But you should. And we've been told by other people that these books are good. So based on that, that should be more than enough for you to go to theroyalgreen.com and purchase your copies of The Royal Green in Silver Throned and Crowned by Gold. Thomas Queter is running for state senate. And Thomas Queter says, I run better than Albany. And he finds that really funny because he's a cripple. And I can say that now because I had COVID. That's not true. But the Thomas Queter's a great guy. He's one of my favorite people in the liberty movement. He is an advocate for the disabled. He is an advocate for everyone, really. And
It'd be
he
weird
is just
if
an
he
incredible
wasn't
guy.
an advocate for the disabled.
He's anti-disabled. Thomas Queter
anti-
is probably best known for his anti-disabled activism. If you want to go to his website, removealltheramps.org. Thomas Queter is a great guy and is doing incredible work in all of New York, and the 52nd District could certainly do no better than Thomas Queter. If you want to help him become the first Libertarian state senator in New York ever, go to tomfor52.com. That's TOMFOR52.com. Defy the Power, Stitches and Glitches. Defy the Power and Stitches and Glitches make the most incredible tumblers that I've ever heard, that I've ever used before.
Oh, I love mine.
Yeah, we use ours a lot, and they are incredible quality. They keep your hots hot for an ungodly number of hours. They keep your colds cold for an equally ungodly number of hours. Everything, really, these are best described as ungodly. And what's also ungodly is the fact that they do free customization, which is insane. They will put anything you want on one of these tumblers, any ungodly thing you can think of. And
as long as the words fit.
As long as the words fit. And you put any graphic you want on there, and they don't charge you extra for it, which is nuts. I've never heard of such a thing on any kind of merchandise. So go to defythepower.com or stitchesandglitches.com. They're the same company, and you can get a tumbler from John and Susan today. Matt.
And if you use Muddy Tumblr as your code, you won't get anything, but they'll know that you came from us.
Yes, be sure to use the code Muddy Tumblr, and you won't get anything. At this point, we should probably update that graphic. But if you put it
really
there,
paid sponsors anymore, so we can just stop showing. But, yeah, whatever.
But they're great tumblers.
They're great tumblers. I don't care if I continue advertising for them because that's how good the tumblers are.
So because they're not paid, we're just going to keep telling people to go there and use Muddy Tumblr to get 10% off. And then when you say to us, "Well, I didn't get 10% off," I go, "Those SOBs."
those darn people.
Those darn people.
Jack Casey just said, I hear Thomas Queter is a great tumbler.
Oh, God. And he'll keep your hots hot, huh?
And your cold's cold. Woo. So before the show started, Spike and I were having a little conversation. And yes. He said that he peaked. And I said, oh, you haven't peaked. Look at you. You're a dashing 30-something year old man, just dashing, on par with the Nicholas Vessers of this world.
Wow.
Yeah, you're welcome. Because no, that's a lie, and everybody knows that man is just a handsome gentleman.
He's just really, he like ages. It's like as he gets older, he becomes more handsome.
Yeah, he's got like that Clooney or Brad Pitt gene.
Yeah,
that, like he's just getting better.
That I do not have at all. I have the opposite of that. I do not have that.
But I said, you haven't peaked yet, and he goes, man, if that's where I'm peaking, like that's a good place to peak. And I said, well, there are worse places to peak. And he goes, yeah, like John Bobbitt. To which I said, that happened in my hometown, and Spike had no idea. Literally, where Lorena Bobbitt cut off John Wayne Bobbitt, because nobody calls him John Bobbitt.
That's right, John Wayne Bobbitt. Yeah.
John Wayne Bobbitt, yeah.
Yep.
Where she cut off his penis was like 8, 4, 5, 6. I don't know. It was close to my house, and the field that she threw it in wasn't far away either. And we had a joke in our town that said, "Do you know the name of the detective that went looking for John Wayne Bobbitt's member?"
Is it I.C. Wiener?
It's Dick Tracy.
Oh, that's even funnier than mine. Actually, I think mine's funnier. Those are both funny.
That happened in Manassas, Virginia, for anybody that doesn't remember. We
what
had
a thing to be known for. Tell me something interesting about yourself. Well, when I was a child, a man lost his member out in the field.
Yep, we actually had a city slogan, Manassas, Virginia, a cut above the rest.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you embraced it.
We did. Oh, yeah.
So Joe Makes Drifts asks, what are Spike's dietary restrictions so that none of the rest of us accidentally try to kill him? Hey, thanks for asking. Actually, to be fair, Matt did ask.
I did ask.
And they just completely disregarded it. But they actually didn't. They tried. They got fooled by one of the classic trip ups there, which is that most people don't realize that teriyaki sauce, unless otherwise noted, has gluten in it. Okay, and who would have? And it was only after my 4th or 5th salmon fillet, because that's how I eat, like a pig. And I'm like, man, this is fantastic. What's in this? And he went, teriyaki sauce and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh. I said, can I see it? He said, yeah. So we opened it. And I turned around to the ingredients and pointed at him. And he went, huh. Why would wheat be in teriyaki sauce? So that was when I realized, yes, natural flavors, Melissa, is another one you got to be careful with. But wheat, this is just straight up wheat. And it even said on the thing, teriyaki's, whatever brand teriyaki, now with extra wheat. And I
bought it special.
Yeah. And so I was like, yeah, you know what? I should be fine. I'll just take a nap. And so I did. I took a nap. That was a gluten nap.
For January.
And I just took a gluten nap. And then while I was taking a gluten nap, little did we know that COVID-19 was incubating in my body.
Yeah. So when we asked about dietary restrictions, Spike gave us a list, and he was like, I can't have gluten. I can't have dairy. I can't have
egg. You
left that one out.
Oh yeah, because she made
so we were like, okay, we're gonna make these gluten-free, because we got gluten-free latkes in order to appease the diet of Prince Spike. And So we're using egg, and then Spike comes over and he's so excited for salmon and latkes. And he couldn't have any of it.
I also didn't specify that I can't have COVID. And in retrospect, you know, I should have said that. So anyway, we had a really fun January. So we would just like to just a total do-over. We just welcome to January 2 and January part 2. And we're just not. We are sorry about the existence of January of 2022. We're just going to write that off, and we're going to move forward, having learned a lot about January. So that brings us to the first segment, which is the what is it called? The Mudwater Mushroom Coffee Replacement Cacao Rapid Fire segment, brought to you by Mudwater. If you woke up today and said, Spike, Matt, hey, why are you in my room? But while you're here, I'd like you to know that I am sick of coffee. I'm just sick of it. I'm all torn up about it. I don't want it anymore. I want something much better. I want something with masala chai, cacao, mushrooms, turmeric, sea salt, cinnamon, and literally nothing else. Well, folks, we have some fantastic news for you. If you go to muddywatersofreedom.com/mud, you can get exactly that, all of those things, and they taste like you would expect those things to taste together. Yeah. No, not. That's not. You're going to want to add some honey, maybe some sugar, maybe even some coffee. But if you have just the Mudwater by itself, know, friends, that you will be getting 1/7 of the caffeine that is in a cup of traditional coffee, just enough to give you enough pep like this. I'm actually not taking Mudwater right now because I'm sleeping a lot. But usually, but not so much caffeine to leave you depressed and jittery and with underlying heart conditions like this. I actually feel terrible. So this is probably not the best time for me to say why it's good to drink Mudwater. But if you want to do a very healthy thing for yourself that includes mushrooms, go to muddywatersofreedom.com/mud and you can get your starter pack of Mudwater today. Matt?
Yes. Made a typo as the first word of the notes, so you know this is going to go off well. The National Air and Space Museum is the latest property to be acquired by Jeff Bezos. Did you hear about this?
Yes.
No.
That would be
so
that would be the Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum.
Yes,
now
the
owned by
Smithsonian
Jeff Bezos.
Institute's National Air and Space Museum.
Yes.
Jeff Bezos did not buy the museum, but for the low price of $200 million, he has the naming rights for the museum.
It's like he wants to be seen as like a Dr. Evil.
From space.
It's just
he wants to be seen from space.
He wants to be seen from space as like this evil person. And I don't think he is evil, but it's just funny how he's like doing everything you would do to be seen as like an actual Lex Luthor. It's amazing. I love it.
So, to be fair, this does not mean that it's now going to be called whatever he wants to call it. It is still going to be the Smithsonian Institute's National Air and Space Museum, but under the terms of the gift agreement, which is the largest donation that the Smithsonian Institute has ever had, Bezos's name will be displayed on the outside of the Learning Center facing Jefferson Avenue and the National Mall, on the outside of the center facing Independence Avenue, and on an entrance to the center that will be inside the museum. His name will also be etched onto a glass sculpture that will be suspended from the ceiling of the National Air and Space Museum in honor of donors who have given 10 million or more, which means he 10 million or more, and he went, hold my champagne.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am going well beyond this. Screw everybody else. And his name will also appear on another donor wall at the Air and Space Museum in Virginia, not far from where Lorena Bobbitt cut off the penis.
Also, breaking news: John Wayne Bobbitt's penis will have an etching of Jeff Bezos' name. That is reserved in an area only for people who have given at least $10 million to the Smithsonian.
I'm certain for the right amount of money he would do that.
I would imagine he would. I love that it's like, oh, there's more. There's more things his name's going to be on?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes, there is. His name will be displayed. Well, sort of. We already talked about it. But his name will be displayed on the Learning Center for 50 years or until the building is next renovated, whichever is later. Now, one of the things that they were talking about in this is there is no morality clause. So Jeff Bezos can go out and do whatever he wants, and this is going to be there. So if he turns into Dr. Evil, it will become the Dr. Evil Air and Space Museum.
What I love is that it's still called the Smithsonian. Like, he didn't just come in and be like, I want this to be the Bezo Center. But it's going to be the, Smithsonian Air and Space Museum, National Air and Space Museum. Jeff Bezos. Like, literally, you walk in and there's a glass etching up here and there's a sign here and there's a learning center there. And so he might as well have just called it the Jeff Bezos. I love it.
Yeah. So I like to think that when he was offering the $200 million for the naming rights, he thought he was going to be able to rename the museum.
Yes.
Which is why I quickly and without much thought wrote up 10 things that Jeff Bezos would have probably named the Smithsonian Institute Air and Space Museum.
Yes.
If he was allowed to.
Yes. Are we doing either?
Yeah, we go back and forth.
All right. We'll go with you first.
Okay. Number 10, the National Air and Spazos Museum.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
These don't get better.
Okay. No, I know. Number 9 is Air Bezos.
Yep. Number 8, the Amazonian Institute of Air and Space.
Number 7 is Bezos National Spacos Museum.
Bezos' National Spacos Museum.
Okay.
Museum of Space and Bezo.
Yes. Cadabra.
The original name for Amazon was Cadabra.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
The Fuck You, Elon Air and Space Museum.
That's my favorite. Blue Origin's Future Hangar. I like that one too.
The New Shepard Air and Space Museum.
Yes, and finally for those who thought I wasn't a big enough dick already, welcome to my Air and Space Museum. I like that. That's actually my favorite one. I also like Amazeum.
Oh, that would have been so good. Is that what you said to me on the phone last night?
That is what I said to you on the phone. But,
I thought you said the Amazonian. And I was like, oh.
No. I said Amazeum. So, speaking of dicks, the ATF disclosed to lawmakers that it manages a database of 920,664,765 firearm purchase records, including both digital and hard copy versions of these transactions.
That's right. Now, the ATF does deny the trustworthy sources of honesty and couth that the ATF happens to be. They deny that these records are used to track.
Well, yeah.
It says that it transfers hard copies of the information into searchable digital databases that is used to trace firearms tied to crimes.
Yes, but not, tracking the owners, of course, because that's possible to do the other without tracking the owners too.
Right.
In between trafficking guns to violent cartels and setting buildings filled with children on fire and then shooting anyone who tries to run out, they reported that the 865,787,086 of the records are already in a digital format.
Yes. Now, fun fact for everybody out there. If you are the owner of a firearms shoppy, ye old firearm shoppy.
Yes.
After 20 years, you can destroy the records of who has purchased which firearms. However, the Biden administration is seeking to alter that law, and he wants those records kept forever.
We lost you. You froze up for a second, but we could hear you the whole time. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So he wants those records kept forever.
Forever.
So
yeah.
Whenever a store, if your ye old firearm shoppy closes, they will just take your records and digitize them, and obviously not use them for what they would call a registry, because that would be illegal to do.
Yes.
Now,
that's illegal.
Representative Michael Cloud, who is a Republican from Texas. Oh, that's a good question. Are those FOIA attainable? I can't answer that question.
Yes.
I did not even think of that when I was writing this.
No, but that's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah. Representative Michael Cloud states that this means that 100% of all lawful commercial firearm transfers would eventually end up in an ATF computer system, thereby creating a permanent database, which is in violation of a gun law against the gun registry here in America, which just goes to show you politicians don't care about laws here in America.
Yeah. No, politicians, bureaucrats, and agents and the police do not care what the law is. They just care what they have to make you do. That's it. That has nothing to do with the law. The law is a thin veneer of control.
Now, what I will say, because I talked to a friend of mine who is he has his own ye old gun shoppy, and he said that he has known about this for a while. The way that they are doing it is it only shows original purchase records, or if the shop resells a weapon, private sales aren't on there. So if a gun transfers
Right.
from me to Spike, or Spike to Jason, and it's private sale or just a gift, that's not in there. So it's not that they would know who has it, just who originally purchased it.
Right.
And whoever purchased it from an authorized dealer after that.
Right. So this is actually a part of the ATF, a very powerful strategy they have towards preventing the trafficking of weapons to dangerous people and organizations. I actually put together this graphic in consultation with the ATF on their Facebook page. We've gone back and forth a little. I made this graphic explaining how the ATF prevents, I don't know why that says traffics firearms, but how they prevent the trafficking of firearms. First, what happens in police in the U.S. and Mexico ask the ATF, "Hey, can you stop cartels from getting guns?" And then they say to the police, "Yes," and then they get right to work. Then they go off to the bad ideas factory to come up with the worst possible way to stop cartels from getting guns. And what they settle on is that they authorize firearms dealers to sell guns to straw purchasers who buy them directly for the cartels. And then this way, they can track the guns to the cartels and arrest them all. But that never actually happens. The cartels then use those guns that they traffic to them to kill hundreds of police and civilians. It's a very powerful strategy, and it continues to cause this to happen.
I was reading the small graphic.
Yes.
Small wording
Yes,
down
there's
at the
some
bottom.
additional information.
Google Operation
Fast and Furious. Don't snitch. Never consent to a search without a warrant. Never speak without a lawyer present. And then the official graphic of the ATF, which in the middle says, "We fear dogs."
Which is why, as we have said on this show, probably more times than almost anything else, is if you're ever pulled over by the police, shut up.
Shut up.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Know
your state's laws on whether or not what you are required to give. In most states, you are only required, if you're pulled over in your car, you are required to give your license, and you are required to give your registration and proof of insurance. There are some additional states where there are additional questions that they require you to ask or require you to answer. But in the vast majority of states, literally all you have to do is the police officer comes up and you roll down your window just enough to be able to give them and to receive back your license, your registration, and your insurance. You are not required to speak with them. You are not required to answer any questions. You are not required to talk with them in any way. It is smart for you to say, "I don't answer questions," so that they don't think there's some kind of a hostage situation or something like that. You simply hand them, say, "I don't answer questions," and then shut up.
Yep.
Shut up. Especially if you think that there is a reason that it would be a bad thing for them to search your car or to continue or expand the investigation. Just shut up. And I know you are tempted to think that, if I cooperate with them and I just am nice and act whatever, then they'll treat me right. No, absolutely not. Just shut up. Whatever happens to you there, they don't have evidence from your mouth, which makes any case that they are trying to build, and anytime they pull you over, they are trying to build a case, as big of a case as they possibly can, because that's what their career is based on. Do not give them any evidence or help in accumulating that case. Shut up.
Shut up. You know,
there
who
are
else is
videos.
Shutting up.
Had I thought, there are videos that I wish I'd remembered to get, where both police and defense attorneys and prosecutors will give examples of how people saying innocent things under what they didn't realize was an interrogation. When you're being pulled over, it is an interrogation. They would say innocent things that then get twisted in court, and then they get found guilty of various crimes because of them just helping the officer and just, making an easy thing of it. Just shut up. Don't talk to them.
You know who else is going to be shutting up?
Who?
The famed ice cream magnate, Stephen Breyer.
Oh, wow.
Famous for founding Breyer's Ice Cream. No.
Yes.
The Supreme Court justice is stepping down from the bench in a strategic move some are referring to as the "I'm smarter than RBG."
The chutzpah. The sheer chutzpah of this woman, who, God rest her soul, who in her 80s was like,
with cancer.
Multiple cancer survivor in her, I believe, early to mid 80s when Obama was president, was like, No, I'm going to ride this out because I'm pretty sure that Hillary Clinton is going to get elected, and I don't know what, her being replaced a year earlier, what was that going to do that was bad? And so she just wrote it out, and then she had to try to survive another 4
she
years.
Looked at Merrick Garland and went, "No."
Yeah, she looked at Merrick Garland and was like, "No, I want someone super progressive to replace me." So, and I'm sure Hillary Clinton's going to do that. Hillary Clinton, Obama wouldn't do it, but Hillary Clinton's gonna do it.
But Hillary Clinton's gonna do it.
Hillary Clinton will definitely do that. And so then Donald Trump gets elected, and she spends the next 4 years trying to pretend that she's not dying. And then she does die because she's well into, I believe, in her 90s.
She was 87.
87. Okay. So yeah, so she was in
87.
her early mid 80s during most of the Obama years. 8 years she had to and instead, so then Donald Trump is president. You know, I don't know how many people that are watching this who have ever been in a situation where they have to stay alive. But she was. And so, and again, not only is she old, but she's also was very frail and also a multiple cancer survivor that kept getting cancer. Kept getting cancer. And then a pandemic happens. So then she dies and has been replaced. So Breyer saw all of that and thought, let's not do that.
Okay, so I have a theory about this.
Okay.
I don't think that's what happened. I think he was back there talking with Kagan, I don't know, and he was like, yeah, I think that there's a possibility that the Democrats lose the Senate in this next election. I don't know when he said it. If he said it last week, like, it's more than a possibility. Like, it's a strong possibility. But gas is $3.50 here in Florida today. The possibility keeps rising. But I think he said something like that, and there were already people driving around DC saying that Breyer needs to resign, and like big signs on their trucks. They were writing op-eds in the Washington Post saying, we don't care that you have a lifetime appointment. You need to step down. We don't care. And I think he made an offhand comment, and he said, yeah, I'm thinking it might be wise for me to step down, but I still feel like I have a couple more years in me. And somebody leaked that in order to push him out. I think that's what happened. I don't think he wanted to resign, but after it got leaked that he was going to and the pressure was on, I think he had to.
Yeah. I tend to agree. I think that there's been a little bit of skullduggery happening here, because I think that these Supreme Court people, I think, you know, you consider if you're in a job where you basically set your own hours, you don't really have to work a lot, you're regarded as this, like, you know, almost a superhuman figure. What's that?
You're like a sage.
Yeah, you're like
an oracle.
An oracle or a wise man or a medicine person, right, or whatever. And so you're like, you know, and you can't be fired under any circumstance. And it's routine that people die on the vet, or they die in this role. I think a lot of people are just like, yeah, I'm in my 80s. I've been here 20 years. I'm not going anywhere. And I think that's what happens with these folks. It's certainly what happened with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And I do think that they're like, nope, this isn't happening. Because the likelihood of the Democrats maintaining their 50-50 majority with Kamala Harris as the 51st vote is basically, that's not smart money. And because, as we know, the Libertarian Party is going to have a majority.
I'll take that.
So yeah, where do I bet that? So I think that the odds of the Democrats maintaining their majority in the Senate is going down. Keep in mind, the Democrats are having to defend, because it's in 6-year cycles. The Democrats are having to defend the Senate that was elected in 2016. And if you will recall, that was a bad year for Republicans everywhere but the White House. It was like the reverse of 2020, where the Republicans did well everywhere but in the presidential election. They lost seats everywhere, but obviously getting the White House. So it's already kind of an uphill battle.
They still had control of the Senate, though.
What's that?
In 16, they still had control of the Senate.
They did, but they lost seats. So
But they lost
this
seats,
is they lost seats. So this was what I'm saying is this was a better than even year for the Democrats, which means they had more seats to defend anyway. The odds of the Republicans taking the Senate are very high, and if the Republicans take the Senate, Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, whoever replaces Joe Biden soon, is not going to get a single Supreme Court justice through at all. And I mean, the odds of if Joe Biden's up for re-election, I don't think he wins it. And if he dies and is replaced by Kamala Harris, she 100% is never going to be president of the United States. She is more hated than Dick Cheney was.
Who shot a man in the face.
Who literally, which again, I say shooting a lawyer in the face actually helps your PR. But everything the media does to try to make Kamala Harris this likable, cool. Oh, we finally have a black woman, and look, she's cool and she laughs a lot. Don't listen to it though. I think it's so funny what they're trying to do because no one really likes her. Like there isn't a demographic or base group that really likes her that much. And she's and from a policy standpoint, Joe Biden keeps frickin' setting her up for the rope-a-dope. I don't know if it's Joe himself or just his team. They hand her these impossible tasks so that she fails just to make sure she never tries to primary challenge Joe. And then it lets Joe go, hey, come on, man, you know the thing, girl power, I know she can do it. And then she's out there not literally being given tasks that are impossible to accomplish and even more impossible to accomplish as vice president, and people don't like her. She's never going to be president. And so, especially with everything going on that's just destroying the chances for Democrats in 24. So yeah, if Breyer or the people managing Breyer, or the people who just stabbed Breyer in the back want to replace Breyer with with someone who's slightly to the right of or left of Merrick Garland instead of someone who's slightly to the right of Merrick Garland, then this is their chance to do that.
Right. Now, Biden's team, Biden hasn't said this because Biden can't string this sentence together.
Right.
Biden has stated that he is going to comb the greatest legal minds of this generation to guarantee that he appoints the person with the greatest knowledge of the law, with a history of even-handed rulings and sound reasoning, and absolutely nothing else. There is no other qualifications specifically he is looking for outside of those things.
Good. That's good because the last thing that we need right now with everything that's going on, with all the uncertainty, is for picks for some of the highest offices, arguably the highest office, because the buck stops with the Supreme Court, at least in theory, for a pick to be made based on something other than their qualifications.
Right. And luckily, because we have decorum back in the White House.
Yes.
We know that the pick is going to be made on their qualifications and absolutely nothing else.
Yes. Whether it's, Joe Biden swearing at reporters who asked him,
about inflation,
fairly basic questions about inflation and the prospects for the elections, or whether it's him defecating himself in front of the Pope, or these weird things where he says he's going to do an interview and then everyone is shooed out of the room, and it's happened multiple times because they don't want anyone asking him questions, and he keeps forgetting that. Or when it's him wandering off,
in the middle
and then
of a
his
question.
team, and then his team saying, "Oh well, he has a stutter." I'm just glad that dignity is back in the White House. The last time I
Dignity
was
and
on
decorum.
Dignity and
It's
Decorum.
been years. Yeah,
It's
been
it has.
years.
It's been 4 years, and because before that we also had all sorts of dignity. The last time I was on RT was actually at 3 a.m, and the reason was I was told by the Russian government was they wanted me to come on and try to make sense of why Joe Biden keeps saying the things he says, and so I went on, and they were the reporter was really trying to make heads or tails of why he would say these things, and I just kept saying he is in a state of cognitive decline, and any attempt for us to try to make sense of why he said this, not within the filter of this man is sundowning in front of us, is going to fall short, because we have to pretend that there isn't an obvious declining of the ability to process and share information. And once you have it through that filter, now suddenly everything makes sense. That didn't stop them from continuing to ask me questions about, but why do you think he said that? Well, again, I think he said this because he is an old man who hasn't been 100% there for at least 3 or 4 years, and has been kind of declining for quite some time.
I have no segue.
So speaking of, hey, you know what else is declining?
Do you know what else people have declining trust in?
Well, not only do they have declining trust in, but there's a thing that's going down, and it's the mortality rate of COVID-19.
So, according to a new study by researchers at Johns Hopkins,
Yes.
the alt-right wing hospital university known as Johns Hopkins.
Yes.
The lockdowns had a significant effect on life in America in almost every way, with the exception of the mortality rate of COVID-19.
Yes.
The review of multiple scientific studies estimates that the lockdowns during the early phase of the pandemic reduced COVID mortality by about 0.2%. We shut down the world for 0.2%.
Yes.
0.2%. Now,
For COVID.
researchers...
Specifically for COVID. Increases in other things, but the reduction in COVID.
Now, researchers at the sage-like, the Nostradamus-esque Imperial College of London predicted that such steps as the lockdowns could reduce death rates by up to 98%. That was a big swing and a miss.
Yes.
The Imperial College of London.
Yes. A rare misstep.
But the research paper said that that lockdowns did have a devastating effect on the economy and contributed to numerous social problems. According to the report, they have contributed to reducing economic activity, raising unemployment, reducing schooling, causing political unrest, contributing to violence, contributing to domestic violence, and undermining liberal democracy. Not to mention, which wasn't in the report that I read, this is just facts I like to have tucked away for moments like this, but not to mention the 31% increase in alcohol consumption and 29% increase in use of other drugs.
Yep.
Since COVID began.
Now, the long tail of health problems and societal problems that will come from a 31% increase in alcohol consumption, increases of abuse, increases of overdose, increases in liver and other organ damage across the board. You can't even properly measure because it will take decades. Someone will die of liver cirrhosis 20, 30 years from now, having lived a life of alcoholism and all of the social and economic and healthcare and societal ills that come from that would not have otherwise done this had the lockdowns and the conditions that were created by the lockdowns happened. That's going to happen many times, and there's not even a good way to measure that. But by simply saying we've seen nearly a wrong one, but we're going to go to that in a second. A nearly one-third increase in alcohol consumption. You can't measure how much worse that is than the supposed 0.2% reduction in COVID.
And the 29% in drug use, granted, it doesn't say what drugs.
Opiates.
I assume it's hard.
It's overwhelmingly opiates, and there might be some cannabis increases there, but it's probably opiates. It's probably an increase in opiates. Yeah.
Right.
Now, thankfully, we do know that this did need to happen because there is no Johns Hopkins data that would demonstrate that COVID-19's fatality rate would go down absent these lockdowns and various other what is this? What the hell is this? So, what this is, and yes, this comes from, I cut it off. This comes from Johns Hopkins. This data is from Johns Hopkins. This is the case fatality rate of COVID-19 as measured by all available data by Johns Hopkins University. And what you can see is during that time that they said there was a 0.2% reduction in the COVID fatality rate, that was during the time that at one point they were saying that that the fatality rate was over 6%. Remember that time? Remember that early on? So when they're talking about how the lockdowns quote unquote helped, they're saying that swoop could have gone as high as 0.2 higher than that before normalizing back down to the actual rate that it was ended up being, which was just below 2%. So that would have happened anyway. And again, that was after where that swoop that you're seeing there, where it goes down below 2% and then kind of stays there. That was after the bulk of all the lockdowns and the most restrictive measures that we had in the U.S. So that 0.2% is literally just a data manipulation that they're talking about. And now looking further, it kind of stayed steady at that point, at that 2% rate. And by the way, this is a case fatality rate where they measure confirmed COVID cases to confirmed deaths from people who had COVID. Okay? This does not include the people who got COVID, never knew it. This does not include the people who got COVID, did a home test, didn't bother telling anyone, just stayed home. This does not include, in other words, take this fatality rate and cut it in half. So at least. And now, if you look towards the end there, see where it went down to now it's just above 1%. It's at 0.17 or 0.18% now. That's from Omicron. And who here has heard of the testing shortages where literally millions or tens of millions of people knew they had COVID, were treated as though they had COVID, and never got confirmed for having COVID because there just weren't any tests in their area to test that they have COVID. So even in the midst of that, the case fatality rate went down much more than 0.2%. It nearly halved itself. And that number is actually much lower. It's even more than half of a reduction because during Omicron, there was a huge testing shortage. So we're probably looking at COVID now having similar fatality numbers to probably still higher than the flu, but maybe 3 times higher or 4 times higher than the flu instead of 10 times higher than the flu, which is what we were told. So when they're talking about a 0.2% reduction, that would be during that period between the beginning of this chart and say right before where it says November 16th. So that 0.2% they're saying is literally just data manipulation. It's not an actual reduction of COVID-19. According to their own numbers, it's not a reduction in actual fatality rate. But what there was an actual increase of was terrible things across the board.
What the study did was they took a period of time, and I don't remember what the period of time is right now, and it was estimated that over the course of this period of time, and I'm going to have to just make up these numbers, 98,210 people are going to die. The amount of people that died were 97,000.
Right, 90, yeah, 90.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So it was what was estimated versus what actually happened. And it's like, wow. Like you look at that, it's like, okay, that's roughly 1,000 people. But when you go, that's 0.2% of the population, you shut down everything. And now you have 30% more drinking going on, 31% more drinking going on, 29% increase in drug use, which is going to cause so many problems later on. And a lot of these people are going to go in and they're going to have issues, liver issues or overdose issues. And it's going to say, were they vaccinated? No. Well, we can't treat them.
Do you know yes, and now there's that as well. And one of the strongest indicators for people having mental health problems or people having suicide issues, one is addiction, and two is being the child of someone with addiction. They created generational problems with this in order to, according to them, potentially save the lives of hundreds, maybe thousands of people or not, and cause ripple effects, generation. And we're just looking at alcoholism and drug abuse. That's before you get into the economic devastation they've caused, the supply chain devastation they've caused, which in this country is leading to shortages and high prices. In other countries is leading to people starving to death because their supply chain was even more brittle and their need for access was even worse than ours was. But they might have, this thing that now has, continues to plummet, they might have been able to reduce it by as much as 0.2% during that time. And if you consider the fact that they want this data to look good, it's probably lower than 0.2%. And 0.2% is basically the margin of error. This is a rounding error. This is, we might have saved lives. It's astounding that they are still trying to pretend that this had any net benefit when their own data, when analyzed by someone who knows how to can just read numbers, shows that it's the opposite. This was a huge net harm that was done.
This was awful. And legitimately, all this did hurt people economically, socially, personally, and it increased drug use, it increased alcohol addiction. It hurt people. Kids, I can't even explain the damage that has been done to children mentally over the course of this. This is very important for learning how people are. Being able to see this part of your face is very important to learn how to interact with people. And you took that, and you're still trying to take it from people in certain areas of the country, but you are trying to take that ability away from kids where they can learn and adapt and kind of figure out how it is that people react to situations. You're taking it from them, and they're going to, the damage that is going to be done from that alone isn't going to be seen for 10, 15, 20 years.
Child development, the younger a child is, and the more you reduce their ability to see people's faces. And I'm not a child development expert, but I've read enough studies and articles that have come out over the last couple of years. There is a major harm to child development that, again, is going to be hard to measure. They're going to have to compare, this 4-year group of kids to before and after. And this is like a forgotten generation they're creating, a neglected generation of kids who are already experiencing reductions in efficacy. They were taken out of class. There are some classes where they're making the kids wear masks on the Zoom call to create an environment of masking. And it's like, what are you doing to these kids? Like, well-adjusted adults have a hard time with this stuff. Children have no perspective to compare it to. It's just disgusting what they did. But according to their own data that they manipulated as much as they could, as much as 0.2% of people were prevented from dying of COVID. That's hundreds of people. It's just disgusting. And again, anytime they try to point this out, just remember this chart. And for those who are listening to this, this is a great time to go and check us out on YouTube or on Float or on Facebook or on one of the things where we have video. But if you Google COVID case fatality rate by country, there's a website called Our World in Data. And they have this chart, and you can add all the different countries. And what we have seen across the board was that during the time of the lockdowns, the fatality rates were through the roof, mostly because they just didn't have tests, especially in the US. They didn't have tests, and because they also had some pretty crappy ways that they were dealing with people that had severe COVID in the hospitals, and they've gotten better with it. Also, COVID itself has gotten more mild, and also vaccination has vaccination isn't the reason for that sudden drop off at the end, but there definitely is data that shows that especially vulnerable people who were likely to die, when they get vaccinated, it reduces their chances of dying. All of these things have combined to bring down but by the way, I want to have a side note here. I know we're talking way longer than we were supposed to about this, but the vaccine came out in the end of 2020. So if you're looking at this chart, that's right around when it plateaued. Okay? And then the next time that you see a big drop, there's kind of this steady sideways down action on the fatality rate, case fatality rate for COVID. The next big drop that you see is the most recent one during the Omicron wave. And that's at a point where we've kind of plateaued at the amount of vaccination. So I do believe, and there's all sorts of studies of who's in the hospital, who's dying, unvaccinated versus vaccinated, and so forth, to demonstrate that the vaccine has reduced the likelihood of getting severe illness or death, especially for those most vulnerable to it. But in real world terms, it's not because they will try to claim, as this fatality rate continues to drop, as COVID becomes less and less severe, they will try to claim that it's because of the vaccines. Look at their own data. That's not what happened. It certainly had some contribution, but that's not why. It's because the virus itself is becoming more mild. That's why there's that sudden drop off with Omicron. It's because it's, as we've been saying for a year now, viruses, especially coronaviruses, mutate to become less severe and more transmissible over time. And that's what's happening. And look what they did to you and how they destroyed your life in order to do this nonsense. Now, we're going to do the opposite of destroying your life. We're going to do something that brings joy to your life and increases the COVID fatality rate by as much as 0.2%. That's not going to do that. And that is the personal injury attorney, Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, anchor call-in moment. It's not going to cause fatality rates to go up. And it's brought to you by Chris Reynolds, attorney at law. If you want to sue us for potentially making the COVID fatality rate go up as much as 0.2%, well, it better not be in Florida, pal, because we'll use personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, to sue you back. If you want money, big, stupid stacks of cash, and you've been personally injured, well, great news if you're in Florida. If you're not in Florida, I don't know what to tell you. But if you are in Florida, if you go to chrisreynoldslaw.com, Chris Reynolds, and I make this promise to you right now in this moment, Chris Reynolds will get you so much money that if you were to have it converted into $20 bills, you would not be physically able to carry it. No one you know would be able to physically carry the stacks of Jacksons that he can get you.
Tubmans. The stacks of
Tubmans, of Jacksons and Tubmans. And if you were to convert it into $5 bills, then your entire family couldn't even pick it up. And if you were to convert it into $1 bills, that's not even possible. The bank will say, no, we don't, you're taking all our ones. Why are you doing this? Personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, chrisreynoldslaw.com. Now let's pull up do we have calls?
Yes.
Oh, good. Hold on.
Yeah. It's
been so long, it's making me log back into everything because I've been... Holy crap. Okay, all right, good.
Yeah,
so we got a few...
I didn't think about that when I was doing these notes. I would have cut some stories.
It's actually not that bad. I'm just going to play all of Matt Hicks's back-to-back, and this will actually be pretty good. Okay, here's the first one from the Magpie Libertarian.
Hello, Matt and Spike.
Why is that happening? Wait. You know it's a Muddy Waters Media Production when there's a audio issue. All right, let's try that again.
Hello, Matt and Spike. This is Magpie Libertarian calling with a Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, anchor calling moment. And I have a question about transportation and resolutions. So I am sitting in a wonderfully airline-induced vacation, extended vacation, and trying to get home before I lose my Alaska residency. I am wondering what specifically I and others can do to get transportation in this country back to functional. And wondering too if I'm going to be spending an extra week vacation if my next 3 flights, any of them get canceled. Will I be in Las Vegas for a while? So, looking forward to hearing your ideas. Let's get started.
I hope you got home.
Yeah. I was going to say, hopefully how long ago was that?
3 weeks ago.
Okay, yeah, hopefully you're home now. So transportation's a tricky one because most of the transportation issues we're seeing right now are really just labor issues. They don't have enough people. I travel a lot and I've had a lot of canceled flights, and I get insurance every time that I fly because I often have to stay at a hotel overnight, get something to eat, and then hopefully get out the next day. Usually get out the next day. I think there was only one time where I had to stay a whole extra day. And there's nothing they can do about it because they're already working on, the most, skeleton crew that they can assemble and still comply with the law. And frankly, it's not even comply with the law. It's just be able to function in a functional way. And they just can't. If a weather inconvenience comes that causes a patch of cancellations here, it causes this cascade effect because their entire labor situation is so brittle and hanging on by a thread. If there is any kind of firings that are happening, or not firings, if there's any kind of like even like a issue with a gas shortage at a specific, which is a supply chain issue, at a specific airport, that throws everything out of control. Something that wasn't really an issue in the past, but was now with Omicron, just the sheer number of people that got sick. Not so sick that they ended up in the hospital or dead, but sick enough where they couldn't work. This was the first surge that was so big that it actually truly affected the workforce in a like substantial way, where so many people called in sick at the same time. And what this really comes down to is the U.S. government has been regulating a war against working in the U.S. for decades, and it's finally catching up to us. So the problem with the transportation system is the same problem with the supply chain, which is the same problem with getting protective equipment to hospitals, which is the same problem with the testing shortage. It's the same problem with all this stuff. deregulate the economy so you can have more providers, more competition, more dynamic changes in production and standards, and get government out of it. Government created this mess.
Yep.
Yes. So,
what can I add to that?
I don't know. All right, let's.
You just kind of looked at
next...
me like, "Okay, go," and I'm like, "Okay."
I disagree. You son of a bitch. We need a.
I think we need more regulation.
All right, next one is from Alex Boyer.
Hello. Alex from Virginia calling in on the personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law anchor call-in moment. And I want to talk to you guys today about probably the biggest problem, controversy, whatever, facing America in the year 2022. And that is, right now, there is a Major League Baseball lockout. They've been locked out since December 1st, I believe. So going on for a little over a month. Obviously, this is a huge problem, probably bigger than anything this country has ever faced since 1994.
Yep.
And I was just wondering what you guys think about it. What do you think should be done about it? Thank you.
This is definitely a Matt question.
Spike, what are your thoughts?
Here, because I didn't even know there was a lockout. But here's what I will say. I used to be a huge baseball fan as a kid. And then the 1994 strike happened. And I watched players argue.
You're old enough to remember the 1994 strike?
Well,
wow. What's that like? Do you wake up hurting?
Yes, actually, yes. I woke up hurting back then. You have no idea how old I am. No, I watched players argue with, union leaders arguing with managers, and I'm like, there's so much money. I get that you're arguing over but like so much money's being thrown around. There's got to be a way to make this work, and sure enough, they didn't. And that really soured me so much that I was a huge baseball fan. I had all these baseball cards. I knew all the stats. I was I knew all about the different, what you could tell me a year and I could tell you what team won the World Series that year. And then when I was 12, when the 94 strike happened, I was like, done. And I've like almost lost every once in a while I'll remember like some random thing or whatever, but like I stopped caring about it. I stopped watching it. I would occasionally watch the last game of the World Series to see who won, but and so many people will not watch baseball again because of this. That's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, you're right. You are right. Who won the World Series in 1986?
Wasn't the Yankees.
It was not the Yankees.
Was that the year that? Because I remember like the Mets won in like 68 or 69, and then they won
Mets.
Again. Was the Mets?
In 68 or 69.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they made but then I remember they did it again shortly after that, but I don't think that was 86.
No, that was 86. That was the year that the ball went through Bill Buckner's legs in the ninth inning. Yeah. Yeah, John Morrissey. Bill Buckner won it for the Mets. He did. Yeah. Terrible day in Red Sox history. Terrible day.
Now I got to look it up. See, this is the stuff I would have known and I've like vacated this information.
Yeah, it was the Mets. The ball went through Buckner's legs. The score was tied in the ninth inning. All he had to do was step on first base, and
it was the Mets. Okay, yeah.
So,
yeah, okay, that's what because I remembered there was like it was like almost 20 years later, and then they won again. So it was the Mets. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was the Mets. So I'm a baseball fan, as anybody who watches this show probably already knows. I'm a sports fan in general. Spike's definitely looking forward to the Super Bowl this year. I imagine this is going to be a Super Bowl Spike watches.
Isn't it like the Bengals versus the frickin'
Rams?
Yes.
Yeah, but the halftime show is Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Dr. Dre,
Yeah.
Kendrick Lamar, and Mary J. Blige.
It's like a old millennial, young Gen X hip hop extravaganza.
Hip-hop,
Yeah.
yeah, it is.
Yes,
With
I love
my
it.
favorite team playing, because I'm a Rams fan. But
Yes.
yeah, so I'm a sports fan and I love baseball. Huge Red Sox fan, and this lockout still, I think he left that message 3 weeks ago, and this lockout is still going on. Pitchers and catchers are supposed to report to camp, I believe, on Valentine's Day. I think February 14th. If it's not the 14th, it's the 15th, which means that if they don't have this settled soon, spring training is going to get pushed. And that doesn't mean that they will push opening day later. It just means there will be less spring training time.
Right.
If this continues going on, that means that opening day will get pushed, and then they'll have to decide on extending the season or shortening the season, making the season go later into the year, or cutting the number of games, neither of which I am okay with. Now, from what I understand, is they are close on a deal. There's only like 2 to 3 issues that are kind of holding it up. So I'm hoping that they can get it kind of sorted out before next week, when it's truck day and the teams put all of their equipment on trucks to drive them down here to Florida, where spring training happens. And
Right.
I can go to some spring training games because they are cheaper to go to than actual baseball games. And you can also like interact with the players a little bit, which is nice. So I am hoping that they get it sorted out, but it is millionaires fighting with billionaires over money. That is what this is. And yes, I saw somebody in the comments ask about minor league. Yes, this does affect minor league too, because the owners have to pay all the people all the way down. And that's part of what this is about, is they're saying that the minor leagues aren't getting paid enough, which they aren't. They are not getting paid enough. They're getting paid like $30,000, $40,000 a year to play baseball, which, and a lot of the expenses is on their own, and they have to pay for a lot of the travel on their own, and they don't get like all of the perks of being in the big leagues. They are getting it to play a game, and I would take 40 grand to play baseball right now, but I'm not good. So I'm better than a 6-year-old. I know that, but I am not better than a 20-something-year-old who has been practicing for so long.
Who is good at baseball. Yeah.
Right. Fun sports fact for you, since you stopped watching baseball right when the Expos folded. The last active, how do I word this? The last person that the Expos drafted that was still playing baseball retired this week.
Really?
Yeah. That was Tom Brady.
Wow, that is Wait, Tom Brady, the football player?
Yeah. He was drafted as a catcher in like 1994 or something like that.
Oh, wow,
The
okay.
strike happened. And he ended up turning it down to go to college, and then he became Tom Brady. But there is a chance that he would have become a Washington National and been their catcher.
Because the Expos became the Nationals.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's quite a bit of but see, that's the kind of stuff I would know. Like I knew like all this obscure stuff, and I was really, really into baseball, and I don't think they can overestimate how many people, especially younger people, who just are like, I'm not into it, and then they go and find other stuff that they're into, and they never get back to it. So hopefully they get this lockout worked out, because that strike, just to this day, I'm just really not into baseball.
Steroids saved baseball. I know that they aren't letting people who took steroids into the Hall of Fame, and like I have mixed feelings on it. But if it wasn't for steroids,
The
after
home
the
run
19
races and all that. Yeah.
with Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, and then Barry Bonds, who was a contact hitter for a while, and then he was like, man, Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa are getting all of this amazing press and attention. I want that. I'm going to go do what they're doing. And then everybody's like, well, Barry Bonds is a juicer. He is. So is Roger Clemens. But steroids saved baseball. Saved it. You want to take that out? You can whitewash the hell out of that. But anybody who remembers, steroids saved baseball.
Well, I mean, Michael Phelps will tell you right now he's never swam in a undoped field. Like doping is so. The fact that they still try to pretend that doping isn't at least present, if not prevalent, in every major sport, you're fooling yourselves. Like, I mean, it's just not like. I remember when Sammy Sosa went from being this relatively skinny infield player to suddenly being this gigantic monster who was freaking slamming balls at it. I'm like, what the hell happened? I remember Sammy Sosa earlier in his career, and they're like, yeah, Sammy Sosa is beating the home run record. I'm like, Sammy Sosa? And I was like, the same like little, I think it was like a shortstop or something.
He was an outfielder, but yeah, like he was.
Oh, was he an outfielder? I
but
thought he was an infielder. Yeah. But he went from being this like little skinny guy to this freaking gigantic monster. Oh no, that's not steroids. He's just been, hitting the gym.
Hitting the gym. Yeah, Barry Bonds did the same thing. I remember I watched Barry Bonds when he was a minor league player, when he was coming up with the Pirates. And it was like him and Bobby Bonilla and oh God, what was that other guy's name? The other B name that was the Pirates. But they all played at the Prince William Pirates. That's who the minor league team was at the time. I don't know who it is now, but they were all playing there. Like we had this massive influx of amazing star power there, and it was so much fun to go to games. But they were all these tiny little dudes. And then I always heard about Barry Bonds, but because you didn't have MLB packages or anything like that, you couldn't catch whatever game. And then when I saw him again years later, I was like, is that the same Barry Bonds that that was here? Because I'm built like that Barry Bonds.
Right.
That guy's built like not me.
Are the Mets still paying Bobby Bonilla? Like, is that still a thing?
They might be.
I love that. I love that guy got so much freaking money. All right, cool. So we have two from. Let me play the first one, and we'll see if it makes sense to just play the second one too. But two from Steve Witt. So here's that.
Hey, what's up, guy on left and Spike Cohen? This is Steve Witt calling in on the Chris Reynolds Attorney at Law Anchor Calling moment. And I just wanted to say that I am thankful that you guys survived the Cove AIDS in the after times. You guys have missed a lot of news over the past 2 weeks or so. So hopefully this is a great episode and you cover the majority of it. And thank you all for doing what you do.
I'll play the second one because this is probably him saying how disappointed he is in us.
Hey, guy on left and Jason Lyon. You're not Spike Cohen. Yeah. You guys are trying to kill Spike there, huh? Huh?
Oh, no, that was earlier.
Come on. Why are you trying to kill your best friend like that? All right, Jason. Go ahead and try to rise up to the plate. I know you can do it.
To be clear, that wasn't when they tried to kill me. It was the first day of this year when they said, oh, here, have some egg. Oh, you don't. You found the egg. Here, have some gluten. Oh, you have. Here, sit in this chair for 2 hours. And then that was when I got COVID.
We probably shouldn't spit in your mouth like that.
Yeah, that was probably, in retrospect.
That was where
inviting me to lick all of your doorknobs was probably like, you
did it. Like, that's not on me. You said,
well, you were so hospitable. So but I think just to make it clear, we don't know for certain that's when, everyone got COVID.
No, we just know that everybody got sick 2 days later.
Yes. But we don't know. Because the thing is, like, I mean, well, there's a good chance it was us that brought it because we had done a big New Year's Eve thing, big New Year's Eve salsa thing. We were touching random people. And then before that, we went to a wedding and a party. And then, although I think that was too far back. So there was a few. I may have tried to kill you in exchange.
Wow, I tried to kill
while
you.
you were trying. We might have been trying to kill each other. But
I think
not
Jason. So this is my theory. Jason planned this. This is my theory. Jason planned this. Because even though I love Jason, and huge shout out to Jason and Kelsey, who had a big win. We're not going to go into it, but Jason and Kelsey had a huge win this week and can't be happier for him. But Jason was trying to kill you off so he could be in the wedding party.
Wow.
Yeah. He knew how to get to you.
It's an alpha move. I'll give him that.
It's alpha. That is an alpha move.
That's an alpha move. It's a power move, is what it is.
It is.
And it failed, but just
you're
barely.
Try to take out, if you're gonna try to take out the king, Jason, you can't miss.
You gotta go hard. Now I'm only hobbled. Okay, so this next one is from T. Marie.
Good evening, everyone. This is Patricia Marie calling. I am now a member of the COVID Club. Thank you, Muddy Waters Media, for making me a member of the team. Go COVID. Welcome back, everybody. I'm glad everybody's pulling through. I'm on day 2 of positive COVID. It's been an interesting month nonetheless, but yeah, 2022 is by far the shittiest year on this rock. But anyways,
it was January.
Glad everybody's okay. I'm not making a whole lot of sense because COVID sucks and COVID brain fog is the absolute worst.
Yeah, it's not. No, but she said go COVID. And again, I'd just like to be clear. I'm anti-COVID. We are very much against.
It is not enough to be against COVID.
You must be actively
anti-COVID
COVID negative. It's not enough to just not like COVID. You must be actively COVID negative. And if you're not, then you're a racist.
Hard to argue with that logic. Yeah, T. Marie, sorry that we gave you COVID through the computer. Our deepest condolences. Hope you pulled through.
Yeah, I was gonna say I hope you're okay.
You're not in the comments, which has me worried.
Sure, she's just busy. Yes, just to go, Mitchell. You could also be passively anti-COVID, which is when you have a COVID infection and don't like it, which was me, because I did not like that shit.
I did not like. You know what my favorite part of COVID was?
Your favorite part of COVID?
My favorite part of COVID.
I don't know.
There was one day I slept for 15 hours.
Oh, gosh, the sleep.
Yeah.
Now, as someone who got, and just to let people know, when I say I got hit hard with COVID, I got pneumonia. I got, what's it called? Pink eye.
Conjunctivitis.
Conjunctivitis. I got, like, it hit me. I was like, with COVID. It was bad, and I'm still dealing with it. I actually was in doctor's appointments all day. I have some mild lung damage and a lot of inflammation, and it's gonna take few weeks for me to get back to 100%. I'm definitely 1,000. I could not have done this last week, and I would have been sleeping the week before. So I mean, I'm 1,000 times better. I don't have COVID anymore. No fever. The eyes are clear. I've only had one coughing spell during this whole thing, and it wasn't even that bad. Like I'm 1,000. But all that to say, I'm still sleeping. So I'm now in this really cool phase where I don't have like the bad COVID part, but I'm still really fucking tired all the time. So I sleep like, and those who know me on social media, I am a biphasic sleeper. So I usually sleep about 2 to 3, maybe 4 hours this time. And then I'll sleep, maybe get a nap in there somewhere between, and then I'm just doing shit all day long. So that's why I'm always commenting on Facebook and on Twitter, and you would think that I have a team doing all this, and it's all just me. I now have this new type of biphasic sleeping where I sleep for 8 to 12 hours this time, and then I do it again on another time of the day, sometimes sleeping as much as 17 to 18 hours a day. And man, you know what's really good? Sleeping a lot. That's good stuff.
And to be fair, the conjunctivitis probably wasn't from COVID. We let Jack Lloyd fart right directly on your face.
Oh wow. Okay, so that was just a secondary.
That was secondary. That had nothing to do with the COVID.
So that was from Jack Lloyd. Okay, that makes sense.
Was from Jack
so
Lloyd,
that was the philosopher, and Jack Lloyd gave you conjunctivitis.
They gave you conjunctivitis.
Yes. No. I will. I'm definitely enjoying the sleep, coupled with the not gasping for air when I wake up.
That's big.
Those two things are nice, because then now I sleep and I wake up and I'm like, wow, how long did I sleep for? And I look at my phone and I'm like, to see the time, and I'm like, that's impressive. And then sometimes I fall back asleep, but I don't wake up like and coughing. So it's good.
I think I could have beat like the record that I had, the 15 hours or whatever it was. But Fenway, our puppy, he was not having it anymore. He was tired of me. He thought that I was being lazy, and he has these paws that are tiny little fists.
Yes.
And he enjoys slapping you in the face with them when he thinks you need to wake up.
See, I had the exact opposite problem. We have this toy poodle, which, first of all, just that sentence is so weird, because I'm a pit bull guy. Like, we have pit bulls and Rottweilers and like Great Danes and big dogs. We don't right now. So anyway, we got this toy poodle, and so his thing was, when I was recovering, he would sleep either on my lap or on my chest or right next to me. And he's basically like this tiny heating pad. So I would fall asleep, and if he was on me, I definitely wasn't waking up. But he that certainly helped with my sleeping. Are we gonna do all these Matt Hicks ones?
I don't care.
Let's just play them all back to back. Let's just play them all back to back, and then we'll be through that. Here we go.
I'm gonna have to get it.
Well, hello there, guy on left, and Spike. This is Matt Hicks calling in on the personal injury attorney, Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, anchor calling moment. Yeah. I haven't called for a while because I've been really busy with school and work and all of this. I've been working at the public defender's office for the last couple of weeks, and we can argue about the legitimacy of laws enforcing penalties for victimless crimes all you want. I get it. But I have this advice for everyone. If you are currently on probation for a DUI, which you got for driving the wrong way on an interstate highway, you should make sure that you don't get another DUI. Hashtag Laser Legend.
Hypothetically.
That is also called the Adam Freeman advice.
Wait, but would Adam's advice be to do that, or no?
No, Adam would definitely tell you not to do exactly that.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Listen, so possibly the person who did that is as a direct result of the increase in alcohol consumption during this troubling time. Like, this is a perfect example of the kind of shit that happens, so that Johns Hopkins can reduce the fatality rate by as much as 0.2%. And now Matt Hicks is having to help defend this poor schmuck who he doesn't like driving sober. It doesn't feel good. It just doesn't feel right. It is better. Okay, so as someone who allegedly may have driven in the past on all sorts of intoxicants, it's fun. It's fun. Part of the fun
I still
is that you don't care if you die. Go ahead.
I still say I was a better drunk driver than I am a sober driver.
Because you were so conscious of.
My one DUI, I got one DUI, where I blew double the limit, and the dude was like, "If you didn't reek of alcohol, I would assume that you were just speeding, but you reek of alcohol." And
that's a compliment, kind of.
Yeah, and you have a handle of vodka sitting right next to you that's half empty.
Absent those things, though.
Absent those things, would have gotten.
I'd have been none the wiser.
Yeah.
That's a compliment.
Yeah.
I, on the other hand, had absolutely no business driving. I once drove what I could only describe as sideways, where like the road was going this way and I was running perpendicular to it. But it was fun. But what was fun about it is it's almost like a dreamlike state. And you don't really care if you die because you're not 100% sure it's real, what's happening. All that to say, it's a good thing that I've been sober for 16 years now, is what I'm trying to say.
It's a good thing I've been sober for 7.
Our sobriety is good mostly for traffic safety reasons.
Hannah Lee says 0.08 is an arbitrary number. Yes, it is. 100%.
Yes.
It is an arbitrary number.
Means
and
nothing.
They were talking about putting it to 0.05, to which I just said, well, this is no longer trying to stop anything. This is now fundraising.
That's fundraising. That is, you drank yesterday and last night and then woke up in the morning. Like, that's stupid. The 0.05 is dumb. A non-zero number. Now we're getting somewhere, especially when coupled with other things.
Right.
So imagine taking the breathalyzer test.
That's where the number.
That's where the action starts. So imagine, for example, being at a club in Myrtle Beach and blowing in the breathalyzer as kind of a challenge. This again was pre-COVID. Yeah. And then saying, all right, I'm ready. Because the number reached challenge level. It's a good thing I'm sober. All right, we'll just play these for Matt Hicks.
Well, hello again, Guy on Left and Michael Cohen. This is Matt Hicks, calling again on the personal injury attorney, Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, anchor calling moment to you. I want to weigh in on Ukraine briefly. First of all, I'd like to say that if you're not from the Ukraine or from Russia, this is all really academic and none of our business, so we probably shouldn't start a war there. Having said all that, there's a lot of people talking about the root causes of it without really addressing the one root cause of it, and that's the Treaty of Pereyaslav, which was signed, I think, in 1654. I could be full of shit on that, but I think that's the right date. It all comes down to whether or not that was a treaty of equals or a treaty of subordination between the Ukraine and Russia. Hashtag Laser Legend.
I thought he was talking about the treaty where the Ukraine agreed to give up its nukes in exchange for U.S. protection, which was the dumb. If you're anyone watching this who is the head of state or a major figure in a country that has nuclear weapons, do not agree to that.
Both of those people.
Do not agree. Because I don't think we should honor it. Because who would we be defending it against? Russia! So it's like, okay, to stop this second tier country in terms of its it's not a world power. This I shouldn't say second tier, this non-world power, regional power country, to get it to stop having nuclear weapons for some reason, we're going to say, give us your weapons, or we're going to destroy your weapons. And in exchange, if you are to ever have a territorial dispute with Russia, we're going to have a direct hot war over it. How does that, like, it's like saying, hey, give me your gun that you are using to try to keep that, gang of terrorists next to you. Or I don't want to say gang of terrorists because I don't want to compare Russia to, but this country, these neighbors you have that you have a long sordid history of disagreement with, and they're heavily armed, it could blow up the whole block. Give up your guns to keep them at bay, and in exchange, if anything ever pops off, we will come over with our gigantic arsenal and trigger what could potentially destroy the entire neighborhood. That's what that agreement is. I don't know the thing that Matt's talking about from 500 years ago, but I'm sure that's relevant.
I'm certain.
All right, here's the next one.
Hey, guy on left and Spike, this is Matt Hicks calling in again on the personal injury attorney, Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, anchor call in moment TM. This is in regards to my first message about the whole DUI thing. So initially, when I started working at this public defender's office, I had to watch oftentimes several hours of body cam, dash cam video to see if there was something exculpatory we could use. Now, what I've learned is that I'm actually doing it because I need to see how bad it is, because drunk people never shut up. Listen, for all your listeners out there, please practice this. When you are talking to the cops, stop. Don't do it. If you get arrested, shut up. I don't care how drunk you are. Stop talking. Just shut up. Shut up, please. That's all I got. Hashtag Laser Legend.
That is a lawyer in training who is clerking at a public defense. If you're not going to listen to me and Matt, listen to him. Shut up. Just shut. Whatever you think you are doing, at best, you will not give them evidence.
Yep.
You are doing nothing to help your case. No one has ever said anything to a police officer except for, I'm a police officer, to get them out of being arrested, okay? Or I'm a politician or whatever. Like, nothing you can say as a non-police officer, non-elected official is going to get you out of anything. All it will do, if it does anything, will get you into more shit. So shut up. I lost track of the things. Okay, I think this is the next one.
Yo, guy on left and Spiegel Cohen. It's your boy Matt Hicks calling on the personal injury attorney, Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, anchor calling moment TM. I left you some messages like last week, but you didn't do your show. I don't know if you're going to play them, whatever. I'm not going to go back over some old stuff. I just wanted to call and let you guys know that I have a day in court tomorrow with my with a local governmental entity who decided that they don't have to listen to my FOIA request. So I'm going to wreck their day. And to all of your listeners, you too can do just this. Wish me luck. It's going to be awesome. I'll give you a full report next week, I guess. Anyway, yeah, love you guys. Hashtag Laser Legend.
Yeah, he has been battling his school district. I believe that's what this is over. He has been battling his school board. And, I mean, they, were just straight up buying cars and giving them to people. It's the most corrupt thing in this small town area, and he has been taking them on almost single-handedly. They've tried to get him arrested. It's always failed. He's everything they've done has fallen apart because he's playing chess and they're playing, I don't know, pigeon checkers or whatever. They're small town corrupt officials who've never actually had anyone challenge them.
Let's steal the taxpayers' money.
Yeah. They just play steal and don't even try to cover it up, and he's just wrecking all their shit. All right, here's the last one from Matt.
Well, hello there again, guy on left and Spike. This is Matt Hicks calling in on the personal injury attorney, Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, anchor call in moment TM. A little bit of legal information that I'm sure will infuriate all of you. So if you're ever charged and on trial for a crime, before the trial happens and discovery is going on, the prosecution is compelled and obligated to give over whatever evidence they have to the defense.
Yes.
But they get their evidence from the police, generally. And the police are compelled to give evidence to the prosecutors, but the police are not compelled to do a thorough and accurate investigation. They can completely ignore exculpatory evidence and not investigate it at all. Hashtag laser legend.
Yeah. The system incentivizes prosecution. And if you want to be really upset, there's something it's on Netflix called How to Fix a Drug Scandal. And it shows two different examples where the drug testers, the people that test the drugs to say whether they're the actual drug or not, one was was just passing them all through as positive because she was trying to have this incredible case rate and beat all of her colleagues. The other one was using the drugs.
Harris?
Yes, like Kamala Harris. The other one was using the drugs. So one was in the Boston area, the one was in Western Mass. Long story short, the courts, under Martha Coakley, the Democrats that run Massachusetts, all tried to just say, oh, that only affected a couple of cases. When the reality is it affected, especially that lady out west who had been using the drugs for 10 years. All of those cases, well, I don't want to tell you what ended up happening, but watch that. I don't want to tell you how it ends, but it shows how they straight up lied in court. They did everything they could to try to make it sound like it was this isolated thing that only affected a handful of cases, when the reality was it affected close to, I think, 60,000 cases. And so watch that and realize that's happening everywhere, not just on drug cases. The police and the prosecutors do everything they can to push people through as guilty, which is why 90-something% of cases end in plea charges, because they go to people who can't afford cash bail. They go to people who already have priors. They say, we're going to destroy you. It doesn't matter if you're innocent or not. We've got all this evidence. Just plea it down to this. The sheer number of people that are in prison, and I'm not even including the people that are in there for victimless crimes that shouldn't even be illegal. I'm talking about people who are in there for rape, for murder, for assault, for all sorts of, other charges. They didn't do it, and they just get railroaded. We don't have a criminal justice system. We have a free prison labor loophole around the 13th Amendment system.
Yep.
So we're going to end on a high note, and by high I mean geographically above us. So just north of us, just above the U.S. So Matt, has anything been happening interesting in Canada? I'm sure it hasn't. That's my segue. I'm sorry.
9 times out of 10. I think, okay, so this show's been on for 5 years. And I think we've talked about Canada twice.
Yeah.
All of them since COVID, too. Oh, no. One of them had to do with their Prime Minister Blackface.
Yes. Yes.
We talked about that, and then we talked about COVID.
In fact, there was actually a 3 or 4 month period of time when I was in Canada, and we still didn't talk about Canada.
We didn't talk about it. Yeah, because I was like, I don't care, it's Canada.
Yeah, I was in Canada. Yeah.
So Prime Minister Blackface,
yes,
is currently in hiding, possibly in the U.S. I don't know.
That would be funny. Would be funny.
I read he was here, and then when I went to try to find that article again, I could not find it.
I'm going to try to find that. What?
So Prime Minister Blackface is in hiding because a bunch of truckers have decided to drive to Ottawa where on Saturday, the temperature was a balmy -6 degrees Fahrenheit or a -20 degrees Celsius for our friends not using the Fahrenheit system, to protest the vaccine mandates. Now, I don't know how many people have been following this closely because it's very difficult. You're getting one of two sides from vastly opposite sides if you are looking anything up about this. So it's very difficult to find some middle of the road, neutral kind of coverage about this. So the convoy began because a bunch of truckers that weren't vaccinated didn't want to have to quarantine for the 2 weeks or the 10 days or whatever they have it up there in Canada whenever they crossed over to the United States to deliver goods. And then when they came back, they were having to quarantine. This is how this started. They were like, we don't want to do that because that is our jobs and we drive over there literally every day. You will be taking our livelihood away from us. It has now grown thanks to new political party. I think it's called the Maverick Party, which that's terrifying. Sarah Palin and John McCain.
The John McCain, Dan Crenshaw Party, I think, is the working title for this.
Right. I mean, they're the same person.
Yes.
Both got elected because they failed at war.
It's that sweet spot between getting hurt and not dying.
But so it has since grown with push from different political parties to end all vaccine mandates nationwide. And what the supporters of what is known as the Freedom Convoy see as government overreach in the COVID-19 restrictions and the COVID regime that is sweeping, that has swept. It has swiffered most of Western culture.
Swiffered us. We got Swiffered. It felt like a Swiffering. I actually think that's... We got Roomba'd, really.
Actually, it's Canada. They still have curling up there, and they use, I think they're sweepers. So they're
they were sweepered.
Yeah, they're sweepers.
That's funny. Yes.
That was Canada with their COVID restrictions.
Wow. Moving the iron or stone that is the COVID mortality rate as much as 0.2 degrees in this direction.
Exactly. So Prime Minister Blackface,
yes,
who some would argue as a person who has been caught in blackface at least 5 separate times, would be part of a fringe minority group of people who've
been caught in blackface multiple times.
called the group of at the trucker convoy a fringe minority group who hold unacceptable views, which apparently being caught in blackface in public in Canada is not an unacceptable view if you're the prime minister, who at one point in his life got beaten up by Chandler from Friends.
Wait, what?
Yeah, Chandler from Friends, Matthew Perry, beat up Justin Trudeau.
Is this like this isn't like a theory or something? This is confirmed?
No, Matthew Perry said that in an interview. He said, "Oh yeah, I beat him up once."
Beat up.
It was like they were in like private school together when they were younger, and they were kids, and they thought his dad was a douche because they didn't realize Fidel Castro, but they ended up beating up Justin Trudeau.
Oh, and Trudeau said he wants a rematch.
Yeah. Well, that's not fair. Matthew Perry has such addiction issues now. Like that
I was going to say
that would be mean.
Yeah,
just beat up on a guy that has health issues.
I saw clips from like the Friends reunion or something. I think it was last year or the year before, and he's like slurring and like, as someone who is cognizant of neurological issues because I have MS, he has neurological issues. So I would probably give the point Trudeau now, but good on him for beating up.
I don't know. He did. Yeah, he beat up Trudeau. So I mean, think about it. They hold the truckers, not the people who wear blackface or got beat up by Matthew Perry. The truckers. They hold the unacceptable view that they have the audacity, the audacity to desire that they don't want to be taxed for being unvaccinated.
Yep.
They don't want to have to pay a tax because they didn't get vaccinated. That is an unacceptable view in the eyes of Prime Minister Blackface.
Yes.
How do you look at Ralph Northam from Virginia and think, God, he only did it once?
Yeah, I'm gonna beat that. Like Ralph, and it was possibly as a part of performance art. And we'll never know because his wife screwed that up for him. But and we've talked about that a lot. But Trudeau was like just straight up, and not just blackface. He would do blackface, and I guess you could call it brown face, where he would try to be like an Arab or an Indian person in Canada, which has a gigantic brown population. But even his brown face was blackface.
It was blackface.
Justin Trudeau has one costume, and it is putting freaking black paint on his face and then sticking his tongue out. And the wild thing about that is it means you're looking at Indian and Arab and East Asian people. You're looking at Indians and Bangladeshis and Pakistanis and Arabs and so forth, and Persians, Iranians and stuff, and Azerbaijanis and like people in that whole region. And you're looking at them and going, yeah, black is this shirt. Like, these are people, some of them are as light skin toned or close to it as Matt and me, and many more are, darker skin toned. But I mean, you know Indians, Bangladesh. This is not, like, this would be offensively too much to represent African Americans, right? Like, this is too much for African Americans, or at least the vast majority of African Americans. This is way too, like, it's besides being offensive in and of itself, just the idea that they're this black would be Indians.
Wait, he was Aladdin in one. Yeah, anyway.
Yes, he was Aladdin with the black face, this black, because that's what Aladdin looks like.
So he followed this up. He followed up that they have unacceptable views and they're a fringe minority group with 90% of them are vaccinated.
Yeah.
So 90% of them are vaccinated and they're going out there because they don't want the vaccine mandates, but they have these outlandish views that are unacceptable in today's society. But 90%. Okay.
Yeah. No, literally, these are people that the probably vast majority of them are vaccinated. And they're either vaccinated because they wanted to be vaccinated, or because they or it could be because they are like, it could be because they had to be vaccinated and they wish they hadn't or whatever. But these are not, these are all people that are vaccinated, and or a good number of them are vaccinated. They have this unacceptable view, fringe minority that they are, that you shouldn't be forced to do that.
Right. Now, even though 90% of the truckers have been vaccinated, according to the regularly dark-skinned prime minister,
Yes.
That has not stopped people from calling him the basic go-to insults of people of less than discerning taste.
Yes.
Washington Post and MSNBC has called them, not yet, has called them a cult and compared them to Nazis. Joe Scarborough, co-host of MSNBC's show Morning Joe, was quoted as saying, "Now they have met the enemy, and the enemy, their enemy, is themselves, because they've become what they hated. They've become what they mocked. And now they're taking food from soup kitchens because they're so put upon for being asked to do what they've been asked to do, required to do their entire lives. It's a cult."
What?
Now okay, so that was in reference to they were always making fun of left-wingers who were anti, vaccines before the government said you have to take these things.
Yes. Now suddenly they're good. Yeah.
Yeah, the ones that stopped polio.
Yeah.
Not the ones that make you less sick. The ones that definitely don't do what
they've claimed.
Rachel Maddow said, or Joe Biden.
But against the polio one.
Against the polio ones, they were like, "Oh, look at those anti-vaxxers," and now they're the anti-vaxxers, and they weren't allowed in any restaurants in Ottawa because of masks and vaccine passports. So they went to homeless. They went to the soup kitchens, and they were getting fed there, and people were like, "You're stealing food from homeless people."
Proving that they're a cult, not the people who are saying you're not allowed to go into a restaurant unless you do a bunch of things that do nothing to stop or slow the spread of COVID. They're the cult.
Right. And as confirmed cult leader Jack Casey said in the comments, "As a cult leader, I can tell you the truckers ain't a cult. The COVID cult is."
Yes.
Now, the overrated editorial cartoonist Michael Day Adair tweeted this cartoon. And the same day that he tweeted this cartoon, the Post published an op-ed calling on Canada to confront the toxic Freedom Convoy head-on, describing the convoy as having an affinity with Trumpist toxic authoritarianist politics. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, yeah, I know, we'll get there. Michael Day Adair, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, I also don't care, but Michael Day Adair was fired from a Canadian newspaper a few years ago when he drew the cartoon that all of us have seen. So I didn't even pull it because all of us have seen it, of Trump looking over two drowned immigrants in the pond. And he said, "Can I play through?" from that picture, and blaming Trump for the two people who drowned in
Italy.
In Texas.
In Texas.
Italy?
Oh. No, hold on. Because there were two different things. There were the ones that drowned in the Rio Grande, but then there were a bunch that drowned like off the shore of Italy.
Mm-hmm. I think it was the Rio Grande.
Okay,
I think it was a father and son
relevant.
Who drowned in the Rio Grande, and the picture went viral. And then he drew a cartoon about it, where he was playing golf, and he said, "Can I play through?" And he got fired from a Canadian newspaper. So the Washington Post quickly snatched him up and said, "Yes, that is the kind of thinking that we need here, or else democracy will die in darkness." So let's go after the Freedom Convoy. So that is who Michael Day Adair is. But the Post did publish the article saying, "Confront the toxic Freedom Convoy head on," and described it as having an affinity with Trumpist toxic authoritarianist politics. Not like forcing people to take medicine that they don't want to when they aren't sick, or telling them that they can't eat or go outside or work or see their loved ones, or
the authoritarian. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I was kind of trailing.
The authoritarian policy of, I think people should be able to make their own choice. And see, this is how they're twisting wording. It's fascism to be against
by Michael Day
to be against actual corporatist fascism, the merging of big government with big state. For example, telling someone you aren't allowed to work and provide for yourself unless you take this product by a big pharmaceutical company that has zero liability against any damages that it caused, and has 100% subsidization from you, the taxpayer. That is. And you got to be careful saying this, because then people are like, oh, you're saying this is the Holocaust? No, I'm not saying it's the Holocaust. No, I'm not saying it's Hitler. I'm saying it is literal textbook fascism. Yes. Like, this is how fascism works. And if you go, well, our country does that a lot. Yes, we live in a fascist system. And say that routinely. And people on the left say that routinely. There's, outside of the most mainstream of political thought, the vast majority of us believe that we are in a fascist, quasi-fascist, or fascist-adjacent system. But not with this. And if you're against it, you're a fascist. It's just absolute nonsense. Now, just to put in perspective, go ahead.
Just to explain the insanity of... I hate to lump in everybody in the left, but it's the insanity of the left. They were talking about Stephen Breyer and his resignation. And they said, thank God that Stephen Breyer is resigning. Hopefully whoever comes in after him can fix his darkest mistakes, and started talking about his fascist mistakes. Now, I will say, I don't agree with these rulings, but they were about cops being able to take DNA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I agree, cops should not be allowed to do that. Stephen Breyer did not, and that was part of the deciding factor. I think he was the deciding vote in that. And so I agree, that was a mistake. But he's also the guy who said, yeah, if you have a job in America, you have to take this shot. But they were okay with that. Not the other thing. I'm not okay with either.
Yep. Fascism bad. And like all fascism bad. It's my most recent, I've gotten a huge influx of right-wing followers on my Twitter and Facebook because I've been outspoken against this COVID regime stuff. And so I've been hitting them hard with, hey guys, you know who enforces all this? These criminals. And I put up pictures of the police, and I'm like, why are you backing them? And so I'm getting a lot of the standard, well, if you were, raped or robbed, you'd call them, and then they'd come an hour later and probably not do anything unless they think it's drug related. And
charge you for something.
Yeah, charge you for something. And so, I've been hitting them with it, but there is a special kind of hypocrisy that is in the progressive left. And I will say the progressive left, because a lot of people on the far left are against this stuff as well. But the progressive, more mainstreamish, and maybe even just outside of mainstream left are just behind this thing. And the reason they're behind it is because they've been conditioned by their favorite media and government people and in their social networks to support it. And again, I'm not saying supporting the vaccine or supporting, choosing to isolate or to wear masks or what. Not saying the effectiveness of the measures themselves, but to forcing people to it and not expecting that to result in the same enforcement mechanism that they are uniformly against. And that's why I asked these folks, I'm like, you agree that overdoses on heroin are bad, right? And that we should try to stop people from overdosing on heroin. But then you also recognize the war on drugs tries to accomplish that in the shittiest way possible. But you can totally trust them to deal with COVID. Anyway, so a little bit of a it is, as Matt said, it is impossible to get a good read on how big these crowds are, how widespread the support is, because you're either getting it from people who are like, this is the best thing ever, this is the Canadian Revolution, and also Trump won in 2020. Like there's that, and then there's this shit. Like there's no in between. There's not good original reporting. There's just a lot of, but so what you have to try to do is take the original reporting that's coming out and try to have some nuance and perspective to it. So when it comes to the how many people are in these actual freedom convoys, there's a video, and I'm going to show it right now, that has stood out to me. This is a clip from.
I saw you
this
post
is a
this
clip.
earlier.
What's that?
I saw you post this earlier. I meant to pull it
Yeah.
and put it in.
Yeah. So this is a clip. This is just one group that came out from Saskatchewan on their way to Ottawa for the Freedom Convoy protests. And this is sped up. It's like I guess it's probably drone footage, and it's sped up. This is just one, and I'm gonna pause it briefly.
Oh.
Look at how far back that goes. Like, this is just one group. In this video alone are hundreds of trucks. And again, look at the top left corner. That's all, not the top left corner of them going left to right. Just past that. That's all truck. Like, there is, I think that we can put to bed any notion, and again, if you're listening to this, you'll definitely want to catch this part of the video. I think that anyone who is trying to claim, for example, Justin Trudeau, that this is a fringe minority, they're literally coming in from all directions. I didn't even get this far in the
video. It goes back.
It goes,
and again, two separate sides.
It's two separate sides, and it's at this point in the video that you can see it goes way, 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 way back, from that stretch of road. And another thing that you'll notice, look at all the different flags. So there's the Canadian flag, but then there's all these other national flags as well. One thing to know about Canadians, more so than I think any other, and we part of the year, well, before all of this, part of the year lived in Toronto, which is a very, very diverse place. I'm like one of the few white people that live in our neighborhood, and they are very hyphenated. If you're a Canadian who came from the Ukraine, you are a Ukrainian Canadian. You've got your Ukrainian flags. I mean, I'd like to joke, when I'm up there during World Cup time, I see every flag in every car except for Canada, and I even see more American flags than I see Canadian flags, because everyone's rooting for their home country. This is a far more diverse group than they want you to believe. This is a far more large group than they want you to believe. And they literally are just saying, and it's also a far more vaccinated group than they want you to believe. Most of those people are probably vaccinated. Something like 90% of Canadian 90%. Truckers are vaccinated. Yeah. And Canada's not a gigantic country. It's not like they have millions and millions of truckers. The fact that this large of a group of, most of those people are vaccinated, they're just saying you should have a choice. Not just them, you should have a choice. So, all of this nonsense is just, it is, and to call them fascists and everything else, do I think that they're the revolution of Canada and that everything they say is great and perfect? No, but they're right on this. And the Canadian government and frankly the North American governments and corporate media elite, they are 1984ing you right now. They are doing everything they can to present this as the exact opposite. Everything they say these people are is what they are. They are the cult. They are the fascists, not these truckers.
Right. And obviously whenever you see a story like this, you're, especially from mainstream media, you are going to see anything that goes against their donors, Pfizer, their sponsors, Pfizer.
Yeah.
Anything that goes against Pfizer, you're going to see people trying to spin it negatively. The New York Times, when they wrote about this, what they said was there was at least one flag with swastikas. Did you see how many people were there? Just in that video, this picture. How many trucks there were? They said there was at least one flag, which means they had one confirmed and nothing else. Odds are that was just somebody trying to make the news and give the riots a bad name. Odds are.
Right.
Just going out on a limb, the Lincoln Project showed up and did something.
One flag. That's a bad actor.
Right.
One flag.
One flag. But yes, there are going to be people at these protests, and those are the people that the media is going to be looking for. That's who they are going to be picking out and being like, "Hey, come here. We need to interview you, just so we can get your crazy ass ideas here on tape and say this is what they're for."
Yep.
Don't take anything that mainstream media is telling you about this to heart. You are going to be getting spin on either side of this thing. All that you need to know is this started because they didn't want to have to quarantine after coming in from America, and it grew into, you know what, there shouldn't be any mandates whatsoever. And to that, I agree. There shouldn't be any mandates whatsoever. And the fact that Justin Trudeau is potentially hiding here in America because he's too afraid to talk to him and has said, I'm not going to talk to them. He has said, I'm not going to talk to him. He probably said it in French, but he said, I'm not going to talk to them. I don't know how to do French, so I can't even try to make fun of him.
No.
Oh no, Matthew Perry, please don't beat me up again. The fact that Justin Trudeau has said, I'm not going to talk to them is really all you really need to know. The fact that the leader of the country is unwilling to talk to that large of a block of people who are his constituents shows you everything you need to know. It's his way or the highway. And he is now saying no to the people who run the highway.
Right. They've literally, it's my way or the highway. Okay, guess it's going to be the highway then. And we're going to completely take it over. If you wanted to piss off a large group, a relatively large subset of people in a country like Canada, which is large geographically, sparsely populated, but sparsely populated in large groupings geographically or population-wise. So like the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, is comparable to like the Boston area or the LA area for population density. And then there's just large amounts of nothing. And then you get to like the Ottawa area, the Quebec area. And I mean, there's people outside of those immediate, or the Montreal area. And there are people outside of those immediate areas. But most of the Canadian population live in these large, in Vancouver, in what is it in Alberta, Calgary. Like they live in these large population areas. America needs truckers incredibly for supply chain issues. Canada's dependency on truckers is on a completely different level that doesn't exist outside of most other countries. Like if you wanted to piss off a group of people, this would be how you do it. And if anyone thinks this is some last hurrah, they're just getting started. They've received millions of dollars in donations from GoFundMe. They're getting support internationally from people who see this as a potential bulwark against the COVID regime in Canada. One of the few countries, Canada, the US, and I guess to a lesser extent New Zealand, or I guess to a more of an extent, really the only countries left that aren't recognizing that pandemic, whose governments aren't recognizing that COVID is endemic and it's time to give up on all these mandates. Pretty much every other country is going into that phase. And this could be that bulwark that forces Trudeau's hand, but he's going to pull his limp wrist garbage all the way to the end. And this group is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and more mainstream. And he's going to probably just hang out in the New York area for indefinitely. So,
and right now there is a U.S. facsimile of this happening. Let me pull that up. Oh, just so everybody knows, this is Ottawa right now. If you see all the red dots on there, those are roads that are closed.
Yeah.
It shows you kind of where the traffic is. I didn't have it pulled up because I didn't think about it before the show. But if you were taking an Uber in Ottawa right now, it's going to cost you a couple extra loonies and toonies because it's probably peak pricing. But yeah, there are truckers organizing a convoy from California to Washington, and right now over 700,000 trucks are allegedly going to be joining them.
If we have our equivalent of a freedom convoy in the U.S., I mean, we have a lot of truckers. And by the way, you will feel that in the supply chain. If a bunch of these truckers go and decide to do this instead of what they would usually be doing, which is bringing you all the stuff you need to survive, like this is you got to stop ignoring
as Scientific Libertarian 2.0 says, buy groceries now.
Yeah. This is like their stock. Buy groceries. They're going up. This is like all the stuff they said about the essential workers during the height of COVID hysteria in the March, April of 2020. Every bit of it was true. Without our truckers, without our retail our grocery workers, without our healthcare workers, our country would grind to a halt. Now that was all fear mongering that they were doing it. What they didn't actually believe it, and they're demonstrating it by trying to get them all fired now. But it's true, and now they're pissing them off. That's not smart. But I'll tell you what is smart, folks. And that's that we've restarted this show. And because we did a not smart thing and got really, really sick for an entire month. But we are back, and we are so glad that you have joined us. And we hope, excuse me, we hope that we continue to get better. But we hope that you rejoin us now that we're back. And get to hang out with us and see all the great things we have in store. We are just getting started, and by that I mean we literally are only getting started this year because this is our first show for the year. Well, that's not true. Matt and Jason, this is my first show for the year, which is why it's Return of the Jedi. But we've got some great stuff in store for you. We love you. We're so glad that you're still here, and we are going to be doing some fantastic stuff this year. All sorts of things, so stay tuned for that. And with that said, tomorrow will be the first episode of 2022 of My Fellow Americans, and my guest will be Anthony Samaroff. You know him, Matt, from who is
drunk
is
little Irish,
the drunk little Scotsman, who is currently
Scotch?
camping out. Say he's Scott. He's Scotch. Or he's Scott, or however you say that. He's currently in Mexico because he can't get back into the U.S. They won't let him back in because they have an active policy
he's
against
having a
allowing
great time in Mexico.
Drunk little Scots into the country. No, he is. He's in. I want to say Cabo San Lucas. It's a tremendous problem to him that he's not in the U.S. right now. I can assure you. But we're going to be talking about his book, Universal Basic Income For and Against, where he, full disclosure, very much against universal basic income. He wrote a book weighing the pros and cons in what I would call a pretty objective way. I mean, honestly, for someone who has a strong opinion about it, he did it in about as objective, really weighed, the arguments in good faith on both sides, and allows the reader to come to their conclusion as to whether UBI is a good thing. So we're going to be talking about that. I'm sure we're going to be talking about his exploits in Mexico because we're both against UBI, so that conversation will take 12 seconds. So that will be my guest. And then on Thursday is the writer's block.
So the issue with the writer's block is that we kept pushing the muddied Zoom to the next week.
Oh, yeah.
So as of right now, I do not have a guest for the writer's block. We can't have a muddied Zoom next week, which would be the day that we're usually supposed to have it, because I have a guest in studio. So we can either do the muddied Zoom this week and give the people what they want, or we can do it on the 3rd and I can try to find a guest by Thursday.
So unfortunately, I can't do the 3rd because I'm going to be doing a podcast that would go into the time for Muddied Zoom, so I can't do the 3rd, so we'll probably have to do it the following Thursday.
Okay, so the 3rd Thursday.
The 3rd Thursday, the 17th.
3rd Thursday. Okay. Cool.
You're not going to believe
so,
who Matt Wright's guest is on Thursday.
Tune in to find out.
We're all going to be surprised together when we find out who Matt's guest is. And then, we've got all sorts of exciting stuff coming up, and including the Muddied Zoom on the 3rd Thursday of this month. And so we are so happy to have you with us. We're so happy to continue to grow this thing and to continue to become to recover from this terrible illness that we all got afflicted with. So Matt, if someone were to try to find Muddy Waters Media on the internet, is that even possible? And if so, how?
It is possible. If you are one of those old school listeners who don't enjoy looking at these gorgeous men who age like fine wine, but not as well as Nicholas Besser-Wieser.
No.
All you would have to do is head on over to Anchor. I'm so out of practice. Anchor.fm.
Oh wow, okay. I can't whisper.
I know. It's difficult. It's difficult for me still.
Hi. Why? I didn't know whispering hurts. Hey.
Anchor.fm/muddywaters.
This is painful.
Yeah, I bet. That's why I didn't do it on the show with Jason.
Oh.
While you're there, you can leave us messages that we will play live on the air on Tuesday nights.
This is terrible.
Or you can, if you are so inclined, you can subscribe. As should you be one of the wonderful people whom we love just a little bit more that subscribe, you will get 10% off in the Muddy Waters store. I think you still get a discount at Stitches and Glitches or Defy the Power.
Okay.
And some other stuff, including access to the Muddied Zoom, except in January of 2022. Or you can find this and every other episode at muddywatersmedia.com.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Well, that's a symptom of COVID recovery is you can't.
Yeah, you can't whisper like you used
whisper?
to. Mine came back not long ago. I tried to do it with Jason.
COVID ASMR. This is COVID ASMR. So, listen, I superfan Sarah Andereggs in the DM in the comments that I somehow sleep next to that. Listen, this man is incredible. Okay, as someone who has slept next to this man once, with a pillow.
Nights.
With a pillow. Oh, that's right. 2 nights. Yeah, twice.
2 nights.
In a row. Twice in a row. I did it and then I did it again. But there was a pillow border between us.
There was. We had a Berlin Wall of pillows going through separating the east and west corridors of that bed.
Yes, with no David Hasselhoff trying to take it down.
Mm-mm. No David Bowie,
which would have been entertaining.
Kiss somebody over it.
Yeah, and so, don't complain. MTAL6 says, when are you coming to Arizona? Well, I was supposed to be there 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, but we're going to be scheduling something for Arizona and for Iowa and for Florida Keys. The 3 things I missed. Okay, so when I first got COVID, my immediate thought was, this probably means I'm not going to be able to go to the Keys. And so I held out, hoping I'd get such a mild case of COVID that 7 days later, I could go to the Keys and test negative. And I wasn't going to go if I was still positive or whatever. Test negative. And then that's not only did I miss the Keys, but then I missed the Arizona Libertarian Convention. And then I missed the frickin' Iowa convention, And so now we're going to be rescheduling all that. I'll be going back to all those places. I don't. Yes, I told a Jew.
You told a Jew not to complain
about one thing. One thing I tell you not to complain about. And this is how you treat me? So, folks, again, thanks so much for being a part of this. We love you. And we will see you tomorrow. We will see you Thursday. We will see you on the Muddied Zoom. We will see you on our shows that are returning because we now are no longer dying of COVID. And so we've all survived Joe Biden's winter of death and severe illness that he promised.
Yes.
Promises made, promises kept. But we have definitely survived it. And so thank you guys again. We love you. And we're oh. And where we're going,
we don't need roads.
Man.